Welcome to Momtroversial, the podcast that dives headfirst into the beautiful chaos of motherhood and dishes on the stuff we wish we would have known and nobody tells you. I'm Leah, a scrunchy nurse writing the Hot Mess Express, here to remind you that it's fine, we're fine, everything's fine.
And I'm Tori, your ride or die mama 3, who will absolutely hold your baby and your secret.
And this week, our crunchy mom, who will be your designated wing woman in any parenting bar fight, Alyssa, is on vacation. So Tori and I are going to take this week to share about a book that we have both been reading that we are loving right now called Parenting with Love and Logic. We're going to just talk about some of the things that this book discusses and some of our thoughts and takes on it. So, this is a book I am listening to it on Spotify. You are listening to it on Audible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. If fun fact for all of the listeners, if you have like the Spotify premium membership, there's so many audiobooks that you can listen to, including your membership, which is how I'm like going through all the books I'm going through right now. But this book is basically discussing different parenting tactics and strategies where you are blending, obviously loving your children, but using logic and teaching them how to grow through their mistakes and learning from the consequences in their choices. So we have some things we're going to go over, and then we'll just kind of share some of our thoughts and go from there. So
Love
one
it.
thing that I really loved in the beginning of the book, I don't know if you remember this part, was that one of the authors was sharing the story of his teenage son and how his teenage son was going to go to this party
Mm,
and asked if he could borrow his parents' car. And his parents said, "No, like your mom and I both have things we have to do tonight. Why don't you ask your friend so and so?" And his son's reaction was "No, it's okay, I just won't go." And the dad was like, "That's interesting. That's like your best friend. Why can't you ride with him?" And then when they had investigated it further, it'd come to find out that the son didn't wanna go because this friend had been drinking and driving to these parties, and his son didn't feel comfortable riding in the car with someone drinking and driving, a teenager who
love
made the
that.
decision on his own. He wasn't comfortable with
Mm,
that. And unfortunately, what ended up happening is that friend got into an accident and killed himself and like four of the people in the car with him. And I was just like shook because of the fact of, you raise your kid in a way where he made that decision by himself. He didn't need his parents to tell him that he shouldn't do that. He said himself, "I would rather not go to this party than to go depending on somebody who I know could potentially drink and drive
yep.
and put me at risk."
That was
And
really mind-blowing. And it seems like a kind of like an anomaly, right? Like
yeah,
that's a 1 out of like 2,000 teenagers right there. But what he's
yes,
talking about, like, if you raise them in this structure, like, you're essentially raising your child to have the ability to make these decisions. And I love how he then goes to further break down what we do that creates that. He's not just saying,
yes.
like, you're doing it bad. Like, this but this book is meticulous in how it breaks down things, like, seemingly innocent things too, like, and he's not shaming parents and saying like, "Oh, you suck and you need to fix this." It's like, "Hey,
Mhm,
this thing of like the coat scenario of like it
mhm.
be like
Yeah,
where the boy did not, the mom's like, "Hey, do you wanna put on your coat?" And the little boy's like, no, I don't want to." And in that moment, I think most of us would be like, "It's 20 degrees outside, get your freaking coat on." Or
mhm.
grab your coat, let's go, whatever. But this mom was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be cold, so I'm gonna put my coat on," and then let it go. And then they hear little chattering teeth in the back seat and like, "Oh, somebody sounds like they might be cold back there." And then, little Timmy or whoever was like, "Yeah, I'm definitely gonna bring my coat next time," because he learned from being cold so that he needs to bring his coat. And so, um, that one to me was so, like, basic and such, like, a thing that literally every parent ever will go through with all of their children. And I was like, "Wow, that's, so simple but revolutionary," because that is a comfortable decision. And if you're a parent who's like, "Oh, I'm not comfortable with my kid not wearing a coat, period, end of story," the author says, like, you can either wear your coat to the car or you can grab your coat, to give, like, the 2 options. You can carry your coat to the car. So, if like, you're gonna be out walking for 3 hours and then not having a coat is just not feasible, that is, like, another way that they can have the autonomy of choosing not to wear the coat while also still safely being warm, like, later. So
Mhm.
I loved that part. I was like, "Yes, this is awesome."
Yeah, it's so good. This parenting book and strategy focuses on allowing your kids to experience natural and logical consequences. So that's an example of allowing a young child to experience a natural consequence. It's cold outside. You don't want to wear your coat. Therefore, you're cold. So we learn in the future, next time it's cold outside, we should bring our coat or wear our coat rather than forcing them to wear the coat. And then at the end of the day, he'll be snug as a rug in the back seat. But all he's going to be thinking about is wait until the day that I can do what I want to do and I don't have to do what you tell me to do, And then that in itself breeds the even more rebellion of our kids or making the choices to do the opposite of what we've told them to do because they've been forced into the situations rather than in safe scenarios allowing our kids to make their own decisions to learn while it's still safe, and by doing this style of parenting at the young age is what leads to having the teenager who's like, no, I'm not going to get in the car with somebody who's gonna drink and drive, and ultimately can save their life. So, yeah, that was such a good scenario, and it's funny, I think the hardest thing as a parent in that situation for me is worrying about what other people think when my kid doesn't have a jacket, for example,
Yeah.
because I've done that here in Korea where it's been, like, cool, and I bring Declan's jacket, but he doesn't wanna wear it. So I'm not gonna fight him and force him to wear it if he doesn't want it. But then we go out in public and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, your kid's not wearing a jacket. Oh my gosh, your kid's not wearing a jacket. Oh my gosh, your kid's not wearing a jacket." And I'm like, "Bro, I have the jacket if he wants it. He doesn't want it. It's
Yeah.
not a battle that I think is worth fighting."
100%. Johnny's my no
But the whole
jacket kid.
time you're like,
Yeah.
and we're that's how we that's how we also are with shoes. Shoes is
Mhm.
another one where I get a lot of weird looks, but in, like, certain environments, I'm like,
Mm. Oh,
if I
wow.
know it's a
Yeah.
relatively okay place for them to be
Mm.
barefoot,
Yeah.
then, I'm like the playground. When we
Yeah.
go to the playground on base, they wanna take off their shoes. It's not a battle. I'm willing to fight. Okay, that's fine. If you don't wanna wear your shoes, you don't have to, but we have to wear it walking to and from the parking lot.
Yep.
Do you wanna put them on or do you want mommy to put them on?
Yep.
Or do you wanna walk and have your shoes on or do you want me to carry you? And then you don't have to wear your shoes till we get there or
Mm.
whatever.
Yeah.
But
I feel like that's the whole premise of the love and logic though, is like you set the boundary, like what you're comfortable with. Like, you're cool with them not wearing shoes at the playground, but you're not cool with them walking through the dirty parking lot. So you're
mhm,
you're cool carrying them if they don't want to wear the shoes, or you're cool if they put on the shoes, or if you put on the shoes. So like you gave all of
yeah,
those options to then allow them to make that decision.
mhm,
Do I want to put on the shoes or not? And I think that's like where like we have a little bit of wiggle room and they have wiggle room too. Like we can kind of work together with our kids to create that
mhm,
balance of like what we're comfortable with. Like
mhm,
Johnny is my no jacket kid, and when it's super cold outside, like he wore shorts to school today and it was like 60 freaking degrees. And so something about the weather here is it got really warm And then
Mhm.
today, it just all of a sudden got really chilly.
So cold.
And I
Mhm.
sent him to school in a short sleeve and shorts, and he loved he was like, "Yes, finally shorts weather." And I was like, "Hey, it's about to rain. Should you grab your rain jacket?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I'll grab it." And so he came home wearing it, but the Korean teachers are just like, "Oh my gosh, like where are his clothes?" And, they're like all the Korean kids are like all bundled up in these clothes, and then Johnny's getting off the bus in his shorts and t-shirt with his jacket like hanging open because he doesn't wanna wear it. Like, it's just so funny, like the cultural differences.
Mhm.
Um, I've been yelled at by a couple of people for certain scenarios. Like, I was in a grocery store one time in Germany, and I had this, like, German dad come over and start yelling at me in German because Hannah wasn't wearing any socks. It was, like,
Yep.
65 degrees outside, we're inside, and, you know, I knew what he was saying to me, and I was just like, I don't know what to tell you." Like, the socks are in the
Mhm.
car because she pulled them off in the 3.5-minute drive from our driveway to here, but, be
Sounds
mad.
like my
I
kids every time.
Well, and what you said about, like, not like, how to deal with people like that, I mean, this is my simple answer is, like, you just don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care what people think. I care what people think in certain scenarios, like, you know, but not this. Like, if my kid doesn't have socks on, if my kid doesn't have a jacket, like, mind your business. I'm sorry, but, like, I don't care. You can say whatever you want, and I'm just gonna be like, "Okay." It doesn't bother me that you're bothered.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So the foundation for the love and logic process is there are four things that he talks about in this book. Is he talks about shared control. So you gain control by giving away the control you don't need and things you didn't have to begin with. So this is, for example, one of the things he says is you can't force your kids to go to sleep, but you can control at a certain time of night them having to be in their room. And then I don't know if you've gotten to that chapter yet. And then he
I'm
gives
not
an
there yet.
example of like doing that with their children. And then it took like one, maybe two nights of their older kids staying up too late and being really tired and not wanting to go
Mm,
to school because they were too tired and this, that, and the other. And after that, they were in bed by the time that the parents were recommending them to go to bed. And he said, "So I can't force you to sleep. So instead of fighting that battle and like you're going to lose because you can't control that part of your children, can control at 8:30 p.m. is when mom and dad need our time to start winding down for us to get ready to go to bed. So you can be in your room with your door open and your door closed. Can I have the music on? Yeah, as long as I don't hear it. Can I have the light on? Sure. But at this
mm,
point, and then he said in this example, like how the mom did with the coat example of, oh, it's cold. I'm going to put on my coat. The dad goes upstairs and is getting ready for bed to see if the kids are still asleep or not. Man, I'm tired. I need to get a full night of rest so that way I am ready for tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and go to sleep. I love you. Good night. And
I
then
love
he
it.
goes downstairs and goes to sleep, and the kids, he said, didn't. But then it took that. And by like the next day or two, they were in bed asleep at the time that the parent asked. But it didn't become a fight. It wasn't something that they got up in arms about. And so that's something with Declan that I started doing where he's like, I don't want to go to bed. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to, but it's time for us to wind down. So you have to be in your room.
Mm,
Would you like some toys to sit next to your bed? And then you can play with them until you're ready to go to sleep. But mommy needs to rest. And by doing that, there's not a fight. There's no
right.
crying and screaming when I walk out of the room anymore.
Mm,
It's he either decides to chill or he plays with his toys for a couple minutes and then goes to sleep. And so that's the shared control. What shared control things other options, examples do you like doing with your kids?
Um, so one thing is, the dinner plate, and I don't know if they I'm sure they go over and
He
something
does
with
talk
this.
about it.
Okay, so one thing, just an aside, I love the structure of this book and how every single thing has an example scenario. And he,
Every
like,
time.
talks the scenario out from the kid, the parent, like, freaking love that. Like, 12
Mhm,
out of 10. It makes the book. I feel like it
mhm,
makes the book. But back to my example. So, what we serve for dinner and put on the plate, like, that's your dinner. You don't have to finish it. That's up to you. Like, but
mhm,
if you want, you know, if you're like, "Oh, can I have an orange?" Like, you can once you finish the food on your plate. But when you're
mhm,
done, like, you can just be done. Um, and I don't, like, make my kids finish their food, or I will say, though, the less I try to force them, the more they eat. I just think it totally we don't struggle too much. I'd say Charlie is, like, my wild card on whether he eats or not. Like, he dumped his entire dinner on the floor tonight and didn't eat dinner
Ella
and went
feeds
to
the
bed, like
dogs all the time.
like, what the heck? Um,
Mhm,
but yeah, that's my shared control. Like, you can control what you eat, but I will like, we're not gonna have a bunch of snacks, and we're not gonna, what you have is what your options are for eating. Um, I know some people take it a step further and will, like, put the dinner plate in the fridge and, like, save it for breakfast, like,
that's funny. I haven't done that.
maybe this is, like, the '90s kid in me, but that feels really brutal, like, I that's, like, too harsh for me. I'm like, no, as someone who was forced to sit at the table until I finished every morsel on my plate, like, no way.
Yeah,
It's just done. It's done at dinner.
yeah. No, he talks about in the book for the food thing, one of the examples he gives, which I've started doing with my kids, is you can't control how much they eat, but you can control when they eat.
Mm,
So, like, I
mhm,
can't control how much you eat, but this is the time that we eat, like, and this is where routines come in: breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. So, like, tonight, for example, Declan did not eat anything for dinner. I made
mm,
his plate. He sat at the table with me while I ate, but he didn't eat anything. And then he said, "I'm done. Can I go play?" And I said, "Yeah, you can go play if you want, but this is the only chance you're gonna have to eat until breakfast in the morning. Are you okay with that?" And then he said, "Yeah, I'm okay with that." Or sometimes he'll be like, "Oh, okay." And he'll eat some more. Like, he'll actually eat something. But that's one thing that we've, like, started doing, or the same thing if I offer it. And he says no. I'm like, "Okay, well, I hope that you're full enough until breakfast, or I hope that you don't need anything until breakfast or until the morning." And then that's that. And I put it away. And so then in the book, he talks about when they'll come back and if this is a new concept you're using or building for them, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm hungry." Oh, yeah, I totally get it. I get hungry too when I am not able to have a full meal and I have to go a long time. But don't worry, we'll make up for it at breakfast in the morning.
yes. I love that, like, the empathy factor in all of these tips, because, like, showing, like, that you care. And okay, I'm gonna be honest, in some of the parts it does, like, sound like, because we're listening to it on audio, I think, like, maybe we're getting a little bit different of an experience versus someone who's reading it in either Kindle or, like, a paper book. Like, highly recommend listening to the audio, because I don't know, to me it's just a little bit more of a dynamic experience to listen to it, this book specifically. But I totally lost my train of thought what I was talking about just now. Um,
You talk about empathy, which is another one of the
yes.
foundations.
Yes.
Mhm,
So I love how every little thing, and when you're listening to it, that's what I was gonna say. Sometimes it sounds a little disingenuous, where he's just like,
mhm.
"Oh no, I'm so sorry about that." And, like, to us as adults, we're like, "Oh wow, yeah, you sound real sorry." Um, but I think to kids, they're like, "Oh wow, you sound really sorry." And, like, it sounds genuine to them. And that's like that's the whole point,
Mhm,
is, like, how they are receiving it. And I think I feel like just parenting in general, like, we can get so caught up in, like, how we think and how we process things and how we're viewing it and how we would wanna be talked to or what would work with us or, like, so many different things that go into play there, but, like, this specifically focuses on how it will be received by your child, and it's just, like it makes so much sense. I'm actually in the toddler communicating with toddlers section right now, and I've started implementing a couple of things with Charlie, and he's very when he doesn't wanna do something, like, even when I give him choices, I'll say, "Do you want to walk to the stairs or do you want me to carry you?" He'll say, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna you can if you don't make the choice, mommy will make the choice for you." And then usually he says, "No, my make choice." And
Same
then he
thing.
does it. But yeah.
Mhm.
But, sometimes I just have to surfboard carry him up the stairs, like, it just toddlers, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but like, the way that you talk to them, I think, is so important, and the way that you talk to your kids and the empathy shown is just such a highlight for me in this book because it can be so easy to be like, "Why are you doing this to me? Why are you being so difficult?" But when you're just like, look at it from their lens and you work together with them and you have that shared responsibility and you add in the empathy, I just think, like, it creates this whole picture of, like, this really relational way to parent, and I love that so much, and it's so I feel like it's what every parent wants. Like, most people, when they're like, "Oh, I wanna be a parent. I want to be a mom, I wanna be a dad," and they talk about how they want to raise their kids, I feel like most people strive for this type of parenting. Like, they want the relationship with their kids. They want kids who make their own decisions, who are responsible, who will choose not to get in a car with a friend who drinks and drives, like, all of that. Um, but then it's, like, the implementation of it, and so I feel like this is, like, the heart of what most parents want to be. So I just feel like we can't recommend it
Yeah.
enough.
Well, and he talks about in this book, one of the other foundational things is maintaining a child's self-concept. And this was something that was just very mind-blowing to me that I didn't think about. How we are actually hurting our children's self-concept by making decisions for them and or
Mhm.
forcing things on them that are not life and death. Think, for example, let's go back to the jacket. You don't have to have the jacket. You will not die if you don't have the jacket. But forcing
Yep.
it on you is me telling you, you can't make a decision for yourself. I don't trust you. You don't know what you're doing.
Mhm.
Therefore, as I continue to do that as you grow, you are not going to have the confidence to make decisions for yourself. You are going to doubt and second guess yourself versus allowing them to make decisions for themselves. You're improving that self concept because you are saying that I trust you, that you can think through this, that you can decide what is best for you. You know how hungry you are, you know how cold you are. I trust your
Mhm.
judgment. So as they get older, they will have more confidence in making decisions. So it's just something too that like I've reflected on being somebody who gets decision paralysis and gets really
Mhm.
overwhelmed when I have to make decisions because I don't think that I did a ton of getting to make a lot of my own decisions younger. It was something that I was allowed to do as I got older, but at that point, I wasn't confident in making them
Yes.
and then ultimately can make bad ones. And so when he talked about that and how through this shared decision making and the consequences with empathy, allowing them in a safe environment to do those things, how you're making your kid just be more confident and trusting who they are.
Mhm.
I can't unsee it
Yeah.
now because I can see it in other kids. And you can't unsee it once he mentions that. I'm just dumbfounded by how simple yet drastic of a change that makes.
Yeah, I agree. I think so it's something I feel like this book takes, like, what is normal and practical for each kid's, like, level of development, and then implements it in a practical way. Because so much of the things that he's talking about and the concepts that I've heard so far, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that makes total sense because XYZ," like, based on stuff that I've learned, like, in my degree or just in general, like, parenting research, but it, like, bridges the gap between what you know and what you've, like, maybe researched or learned or something like that into actually how to, like, implement it, and I feel like I'm gonna say this, like, 10 different ways in this episode because it's just that to me, that makes a book, like, just so valuable when you're like it's one thing to hear a bunch of great information, it's another to hear the great information and be told and taught how to use it, and I love that so much. I also think because I get a lot of decision fatigue and paralysis also, and, my mom was very and her and I had a conversation, like, semi recently about this, about how she did so much for us when we were kids because she wanted it done a certain way, or, like, she would see us kinda struggling, she'd just step in and do it, or she was very, like, hands-on, like, helicoptery about a lot of things, and so, with the best of intentions. And again, I think so many parents have the best intentions when they're like, it was talking about the sweeping episode or, like, the sweeping situation where, like, "Oh,
Mhm,
dad's sweeping, I wanna sweep like him," but then, he gave 2 scenarios where the dad was like, "Oh, wow, you know, great job doing that sweeping. Make sure you get all of it. There's a little bit over here that you forgot to sweep," and, like, kind of teaching through
mhm,
learning of that, and then there's the opposite scenario where he was like, "Ah, like, you're just making a bigger mess. Like, go play, and I'm gonna take care of this myself." And that to me was, like, really relatable because I was like, "Wow, I need to fix" so many things that I've read in this book, I'm like, "Wow, I need to fix that. I need to fix that in
yeah,
my own parenting," because and some stuff is just like a shift, and other things are like, "Oh, that's like a full, like, 180 of how I've been doing things."
mhm,
Like, I actually implemented that recently. Charlie did something, I'm trying to remember what he did. He made a big mess, but, like, he sprayed something. Oh, he got my cleaner, like, my thieves cleaner, and he sprayed it all over a bunch of stuff. And I was like, "Get away from it, let me just clean it," and then I was like immediately the moment I was like, "Nope, here's a rag, go clean your mess." He did a terrible job, but he did it, and I was proud of myself because I've, like, let go of, like, the perfection of needing it to be cleaned in certain ways.
mhm,
I was like it was only because I had heard that in the chapter, like, "No, this is good for you. Like, this is good for you even at 2 to take responsibility and clean your mess."
mhm.
And all it was him wiping the coffee table with a rag. That's all he did, but, I mean, it was the act of it. It felt like a shift for me too. It was like, "Oh, okay." I'm not, like, telling him to go away from the mess so I can clean it. I'm, like, having him do his version. And then I went over and I was like, "Hey, you missed a spot. Clean this spot right here." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he cleaned that spot. So I'm like, "Alright, maybe I'm doing okay."
Yeah, well, and he talks about that in the book and, like, how to raise kids who are willing to help around the house or want to help around the house without it having to be like you're forcing them to help around the house, and
Mhm.
gives that example of it starts when they're little, it starts when they're 2, and they say, "I wanna help you," and instead of you saying, "No, you're too slow. No, you don't do it right," you say, "Okay, come on," and you share and you allow them to help and you allow them in. And this is something I think we all struggle with because we live in such a fast-paced society, but it's
Mhm.
one of the reasons why, which we've talked about in the past, it is so important to slow down. It's so important to slow down for our kids, slow down their lives, and just be able to be in the moment because there isn't much else that's more important than raising resilient children who are going to turn into responsible adults. But if
100%.
we are trying to rush them through life in childhood, you're missing out on all of these opportunities that will make your life easier in the long run. It will make their lives easier in the long run by just slowing down. And as much as I wanted to vacuum the carpet today and get it done quickly, both Declan and Ella wanted to come vacuum too. So we stopped what we were doing and I helped push the vacuum so they could vacuum and do their thing because they said they wanted to help. So I wasn't going to say no, you
Nice.
know? Yeah. Or the same thing with Declan always loves unloading my groceries for me. But his
Oh,
definition of unloading is throwing it all on the floor for me to pick up, to put away.
perfect.
And it kills me. But I let him do it because he says, I want to help you. And he'll drag all my bags in from the door to the kitchen. And he'll take it all out of the bags and put it on the floor in the kitchen. And he said, I help you. And instead of just
That's
getting
so
annoyed that
sweet.
it's not, organized how I want it, I'm just like, okay, thank you for helping me. That means so much. I really appreciate it.
Mhm. Yes. The foundations are so important.
Foundations and patience. One thing that he talks about in this book is the 3 styles of parenting. So I'm going to read what those 3 styles
Mm.
are because you kind of briefly touched on it with your mom.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm curious. I know which one I lean towards. You tell me which one you lean towards. The 3 styles of parenting are the helicopter parent, which is the parent who hovers, rescues, and protects their child. So this is the parent who doesn't allow any independence or freedom, who is always there. And for example, the type of parent who, if any conflict happens, they like swoop in and just want to save and protect. And the messages that this parenting style sends is that you're fragile. You can't make it without me. You need me to run interference. You need me to protect you. And without me, you won't make it in life. Then you have the drill sergeant parent. This is the kind of parent that is the do it now or else. So this is the parent who, with the jacket situation in the car, I don't care if you're not cold. Put on your jacket now or we're not going. Put on your jacket now or you're going to get spanked or there's no choice. You're not negotiating with me. It's my way or the highway style parent. And they send messages like, you can't think. I have to do your thinking for you. You aren't capable of making decisions on your own. And then you have the third type of parent, which is the parenting style that we should be striving to be like, which is the consultant parent. So this is the parent, you're still always around and present to give advice, but you let your kids make decisions and with the idea that they will make mistakes when it is affordable to make mistakes. For example, it is more affordable to be cold in the backseat of my car because I let you decide that you didn't want to wear your jacket than it is for you to be dead because you got in the car with somebody who was drinking and driving.
Mm, mhm.
Um, and so this sends the message of you'd better do your own thinking because the quality of your life has a lot to do with your decisions.
That's
So
so
out of
good.
those,
That's
so
so
good.
good.
Of
Mm.
all three of those, I definitely lean towards more of a drill sergeant. Of I have to constantly stop myself from saying because I said so,
Mm,
because I
mhm.
said so. Or if you don't, then I whatever.
Yep.
That's where my instinct goes to be that type of parenting that I have had to be. And I always say this to people, the hardest part for me being a mom is parenting myself and checking
Yes.
myself to
Yes.
redirect, especially from those instincts. Um, I've gotten way better, but that's where when I'm impatient or I'm tired, I lean towards that I have to take a deep breath and then let it
Yes.
go and offer the choices.
100%, that's me also. I was definitely, so we talked about this in our, like, parenting style, like, discipline episodes. I was raised by, my dad was very authoritarian, but he was like he was such a mix. he was a mildly permissive on stuff he didn't care about. And then he was authoritarian on stuff he did care about. But, like, it's like he wanted to parent with love and logic. It's like there was, like, this
Mm,
huge, like, mix around there. So my default but there was a lot of because I said so.
yeah,
Like, I know better than you, like, just shut up and listen, like, do what I said. And so that is also my default of, like, especially and I this is not an excuse, but I guess more of, like, an explanation. Like, I feel like and we've talked about this part, like, military life is so stressful, and then you add in living overseas military life, and then you add in living overseas in Korea military life, and then, then you add in all these little nuanced things, and it just feels like life gets harder and harder and harder, and you're just, like, mad all the time because 'cause you're having to do dumb stuff, like order your toilet paper on Amazon because 'cause you're tired of fabric softener being spilled all over it at the store. That's definitely a very specific
it's
example of my
so
own.
valid. Or
But, like, you get
your noodles on Amazon.
bro, I started ordering my noodles on Amazon because 'cause I'm so done with the commissary and their logistical issues, but I digress. I think you get into, like, this fog this fog of, everything's so hard, so then when your kid doesn't do the thing, then it's like, "Just do it, please." Like, I just need one thing to not be a friction point because it
Yeah,
just feels like I have so many friction points in my day, and yes, and so and, like, what you said, like, the more tired you are or, like, more irritable or something, like, dealing with something, like, then the more the drill sergeant parent comes out, like,
mhm,
I was freaking exhausted today, so I was, like, mostly a drill sergeant parent all day long today,
yeah,
and it's so hard to not be like, Just do it," but there's no lessons in that. There's no, and I love, like, the messages that it talks about in this book, like, what you are actively telling your child, "You can't think." Like, I never want my kid to
mm,
think that. I have to
right,
think for you and tell you what to do. You're not capable of making it in life. I would never actually say those things to my children. I don't believe them. I don't want them to believe them. So I think that in and of itself is like a motivation to not parent that way. It's not perfect. And, I'm probably always going to somehow revert to that in like a small way. But like, if that's what my actions are saying, like, I need to change my actions because I never
yeah,
want my kids to believe that they're not capable of making it. That's not okay.
so good. So, if you had to say one thing so far that you've read from this book, which I know that's a really hard question, I
I
know
know.
there's many. What's
There's so
your
many.
one thing that when you heard it or you read it, you were just like, wow, that you would want people to know that if you're going to read this book for any reason, this is why you should read it?
Oh, I mean, I think I'm gonna go back to the whole bridging the gap thing. It's not like one specific example as much as it is the very, like, essence of the book. Like, the way it's written to teach you. And it's, like, very intentional on going through like, talking about the topic, giving the scenario, maybe giving 2 scenarios, giving specific talking points, like, giving advice on how to deal with that specific thing, and there's so many different, like, isms, I'll say, in this book that I feel like it's, like, nearly impossible to, like, narrow it down to, like, the best one. But I just absolutely love, 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 love the way that it's written,
Yeah.
just the between learning and practical application, like, they meet in the middle in this book, and it's beautiful.
Mhm. It's so good. There's so much good in it, especially, like, I think for people and I've been on a kick where I'm, like, reading a for funsy book, reading a parenting book, and then reading a spiritual book, all at once. I'm, like,
Yeah.
taking turns. I, like, listen to my parenting book. I'm, like, reading my funsy book on my Kindle, like, in the evening, and then during nap time is when I'm reading, like, my Christian book. Um but this is out of all the parenting books I've read thus far, I like this one the best because I think it is usable across all ages. While there is a lot of stuff that I think is more applicable to older kids that I'm not there yet, there is still so much teaching that it gives for even young kids. And a primary example is one thing he talks about is enforceable statements. So, for example, Glenn loves wearing jammies all the time. He wants to wear his footy jammies to bed, outside, in the grass, on the trampoline, to the store, all the things. And while if we're at home, I don't necessarily care. At the same time, I only have so many sets of jammies
Mm,
to have to wash all the time that it's just one of those things where I decided to draw the line. If you're in the house, I don't care. You can wear your jammies as much as you want. But if we are going outside, you're going to put on clothes, especially with when we started the potty training and the whole potty training needing to have access because of all of the issues we've had with that. You got to wear pants. You got to wear pants. So instead of it being a fight, he'll say, I want to go play outside. And an example of a enforceable statement is, okay, you can go play outside as soon as you have your jammies on. Yeah, I'd love to go outside with you and go on a walk as soon as you get your jammies on. Sure, we can go to the playground as soon as you have your jammies on.
mm,
And because of that, I can control if he
mhm,
goes outside. I can control if we leave the house. I can control XYZ if
mhm.
he does, in this example, is put on your clothes.
Yeah.
That was something I hadn't started doing until I listened to this book. And now, after listening to the book, he'll say, like, I'll say that to him. I'll be like, oh, okay, well, then I'm going to just play inside. I'm like, okay.
Mm, yeah.
But then it's funny because you'll watch him, and especially when the weather's nice outside, or his sister's in her clothes and she goes outside, and he's like lingering by the door, and he's like looking, and he's like looking, and then he's like, "Mommy, I want to go put on clothes now." Okay, sounds like a great idea. I will help you. You
Yeah.
know, and that's one thing that I like. So even for toddlers, you can still listen to this book and take that away.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
love that in, like, real time, the way he one, it did allow him the choice, you know? Like,
yeah,
you set the boundary of, like, you have to put on clothes to go outside, but you did it, reverse, and, like, yeah, of course you can, as soon as this is true. And then,
and
he made
he
the choice
says that in
not
the book a
to, and then
lot.
he's like yeah, he does. I love that.
You Instead of saying no, you say yes to something else.
Mhm. Yep.
And that's another thing that I just thought of when you said it like that, because that's something else he had mentioned and why it's phrased like that. And that's just been game changing too. So instead of just saying, no, you can't go outside, you're not dressed, you say yes to something else. Yes, I would love to let you go play outside. I would love to go on a walk with you as soon as you do this,
Mhm.
or we struggle drinking water. He struggles drinking water. He's like a juice guy and he likes minding Red from Young Living, which is hella expensive, and he wants to drink it like it's juice. And instead of saying, no, you can't have that right now. Yeah, I would love to give you some as soon as you drink your water.
Mm, nice.
And then, but I don't want to drink my water. That's fine. You don't have to drink your water, but I want juice. Yeah, I bet you do. I would be really happy to get it for you as soon as you finish your water.
Yep. I
So
love that. 'Cause it puts it back in
10 out
their
of 10.
court. It's like you've set the boundary, and they have to decide, like, "Okay, do I really want the juice? If I want the juice, I have to drink the water." Like,
Mhm.
if I don't want the
Yeah,
juice bad enough to drink the water, then I don't really want the juice. And, like,
correct.
it allows them to walk through that step, the process of, like,
Of
oh,
thinking.
of thinking, yeah, of critical thinking, and, I mean, this is not to throw shade on anyone in particular, but it's like it feels like critical thinking is, like, not a big part of our world these days in our culture and our kids. Like, we got all kids with the heads in the screens and, like, either can't make a decision. We've like 25-year-olds that can't call and make a doctor's appointment. You know, it's like crazy that there's like this entire like multiple generations of people where the critical thinking skills are just completely lacking. And so doing it with something so simple that you're of juice, that you're going through the scenario every day and you can
Mhm.
change juice out for whatever you want. But it's like
Right.
I think it's so underutilized. It's such an and it's training. You do have to train yourself for this. It, um, I think it's great. My favorite like little like funny thing out of the book, and we've we've been together when I've said this. When one of our kids falls, I say kaboom, or like something
Started doing that
So
too.
something like that, and it works, like, nearly every single time, and when I
Mhm.
know that one of my kids is actually really hurt is when it doesn't work, because then, like, okay, they're like, "Okay, yeah, but it still really hurts," and, like, you could tell. Like,
Mhm.
last night at when we were at David's office last night, and Charlie was, like, trying to squeeze through, like, a chair door situation, and um, he, like, hit his head on the door, and I was like, "Kaboom!" And David's like, "Oh, no, buddy, are you okay?" And so Charlie is like, like and I was like, "No, say kaboom, say kaboom." And he's like, "Kaboom!" And, like, it turns out Charlie was actually, like, mildly hurt, and he ran over to get a hug and, like, get it all fixed or whatever. But, like, you know, it's funny because you can take that, like, that's a really sweet thing, well-intentioned statement of, "Are you okay?" And I use that one a lot. I don't say, "Oh, no, whatever." Um, but I usually ask. I say, "Are you okay?" But I've started to transition because that one works pretty well too. I've had pretty decent results with "Are you okay?" Because it forces
Yeah,
them
me
to be
too.
like, "I don't know. Am I
Am I?
okay?" Like, yeah.
Mhm.
So I think that one's pretty good too, but, when it's like a total, like, splat or something, like, "Kaboom!" Like, "Ah, that was
Yeah.
awesome." Start clapping, something like that. Then you can
Mhm.
tell the real deal from whatever, but that's, like, the funniest one to me so far that I'm just
Mhm.
like, I love that one.
Yeah, I've been doing that too. Do you have any other thoughts you want to share about parenting with love and logic before we transition?
Ugh, not really other than what we've said. I can't
So good.
I love listening to it, and I think I might actually buy it for my bookshelf just 'cause I feel like it's one of
I was
those
thinking the same
it's
thing.
almost like a reference manual, like such a
Mhm.
practical reference guide of, like, a wealth of information in a small little package of a book, and I can't wait to finish it, and I can't wait to keep going back to it and change my thing. So my closing statement is go listen to it. Specifically listen to it because it's the dynamic of listening to it is amazing. I just love that. What about you?
So good. I think that it is just important. My final thought is the thing that just one of the things really stuck out to me. It's the self concept and how important it is for us to lift up our kids in the things that they do well and to give them freedom where we can to build up that self confidence rather than to harp on the things they don't do well or the areas they struggle. He talks about that at the beginning of the book. And that's just something that a lot of us don't realize what we're doing with the best intentions. But again, it's one of those things where now that it was explained to me and taught to me, I can't unsee it,
Yeah.
especially in specific people that we know. And I've been going out of my way with my kids and other kids to try to help build that self concept
Mhm.
by using some of the strategies in this book because it's so important because that's how we create strong independent people rather than people pleasing people who get walked all over. But yeah, that's to me that's the most important thing is just that self concept and the book talks all about it. So
Yeah.
With that
definitely.
being said, let's talk about the moments that make us laugh, the moments that make us cry, and the moments that make us just say, yep, that's mom life. Do you, off the top of your head, have a mom-controversial moment that you want to share first?
So I was trying to think of one, and I thought of one. It's from this weekend. So we went on a marriage retreat, and because we're a family of 5, we got 2, like, adjoining rooms, which was really cool. The kids stayed in one room, David and I stayed in another. It gave us a little bit of freedom, like, we could, like, talk or sit on the balcony or something without, like, worrying about waking up the kids. Well, Charlie was an absolute villain on the first night. He does he's not very well traveled yet. My big 2 are, like, world travelers. They've been on several long-haul flights, several short flights, a gajillion hours in the car road tripping, like, they're down for it no matter what. They can sleep anywhere, go anywhere, very minimal complaining when we're traveling, like, it's peak for our family to go on a travel. Charlie is not quite there yet. He's doing better, but he he kept everyone up for, like, 2.5 hours after bedtime, trying to talk to everybody, chatting, singing.
I cannot.
And David and I are in the other room, we're like, "How is he still going?" Now, sometimes he does this in his bed at home, where he's just, like, singing Twinkle, or he's talking to his stuffies, or, like, something like that, but, like, he's in his own room by himself, so, like, it doesn't affect him, but when the 3 of them are sharing a room, you just hear, like so John, like, racked out. He was unbothered, completely fell asleep. Hannah's like, "Charlie, shh, it's time to go to sleep," like, over and over, like, trying to help him, and finally, she racked out, and he was still awake, and then eventually, that little villain fell asleep.
That is
Night
so funny.
2 Night 2, he went right to sleep. So I don't know if it's, like, he was just so tired the next night that he didn't wanna feel like terrorizing everyone, or, like, he was like, "Oh, this is what we do now." I don't know, but that was just so funny because I was like, "Man, this dude's the reason that everyone's gonna be tired tomorrow because he just wants to be a little chatty Cathy over there having social hour at, like, 10:30 at night."
That's so funny. Oh my gosh.
Right.
That's such that
Freaking
age. That was literally Ella tonight. She not for that long, but the same thing where, like, she was sitting in her crib and she was, like, pressing the button on one of her stuffies where it's, like, has a light and does twinkle twinkle, and Declan's just sitting there watching her, and I was like, "Ella, stop that. Ella, stop that." Oh, and it's just their age, it's so funny. I would say my
Yeah.
moment from this week was on Wednesday, and Declan is at the stage where he officially has memory. And so there was this toy at the exchange that he wanted, and he had asked me for a while back. And I said, "No, Declan, you already have 3 Macs at home. Mac from Cars, the uh, semi who drives Lightning McQueen around." And he wanted another one, a new one. And I said, "No, you already have 3 at home. But I'll take a picture of it. I'll send it to one of the grandparents. We'll see if we can enlist anybody to help you out. Mommy is not buying it." And he actually had this was like a couple weeks ago, and he had asked me about it the next day. And I said, "Oh, no, buddy, I'm sorry. I haven't heard anything yet." And then he had even asked me last week at some point about it and if we were going to go back and get it. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe that you still want this thing. So I told my mom, because I never actually told my parents about it, because I didn't want to buy a 4th Mac semi
Mhm,
truck for my
mhm.
house. And I told my mom about it. My mom said, "I am going to send you money. Get cash. I want you to give him cash to make him go walk to the register, buy it himself." So I said, "Okay." So we went and got lunch with Travis on Wednesday, and Travis wanted to be there. And I said, "Okay, I have a surprise for you now. Do you remember that Mack truck that you've really been wanting from the store?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, Mimi sent you the cash to go buy it yourself." He said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, here's your money. Let's go." You show me where it is. And he took off and he knew exactly where it was, walked his 3.5-year-old self straight to the toy aisle, to the Mac, grabbed it, walked carrying it to the register, put it on the conveyor belt, gave the guy the cash,
Oh my
got the
gosh.
change, put it in his bag, and carried his bag out. And then has nonstop played with it since then. But I have a picture of it, and it's just the fact that he did all of those steps
Mm,
was just a dumbfounding moment for me of, wow, are you 3? Are you 3 going on 5 or 6? Just the growth of my kid.
yeah.
And
That's big boy stuff.
he's sleeping with Mac next to his bed right now. He loves it because one of
Cute.
the things that he loves to do is he likes to stack all his cars. And so this is one of those trucks where that's what it's made to do. It's almost as if you were to imagine when we drive on the road and you see the semis that have all the cars double
Mhm,
stacked.
mhm.
That's what this Mac is, versus the other ones are
Oh,
not like
sweet.
this. So he can fit like 10 cars on this one Mac truck, and it makes him so happy.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that was our moment from this week. So,
Oh, that's such a peak, like, milestone moment too, like, to see your kid, like, get the money, pick out their thing, like, buy
and
it, like,
if
it's a whole
you want the
thing. Oh my
money,
gosh.
because normally he says, "No, mommy, you do it." And I said, "If you want the
Mhm.
Mac toy, I'm sorry, but that's what Mimi said. You have to do it yourself." And
Yep.
so he did it. And he said thank
Go
you to the
deep.
guy who he gave it to him. And I was like, wow. Oh,
Cute.
that makes me so happy. Thank you guys so much for joining us discussing the wild sides of parenting and motherhood. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, please take a second to like, rate, and review on whatever platform you listen to. Do that for any and every podcast that you enjoy listening to. It's the best thing that you can do. And if you guys have any comments, questions, or things you would like to see talked about, just follow us at Momtroversial Podcast on Instagram and send us a DM. And until next time, keep it Momtroversial. Bye.